the attention of the public more than that of people of some rank and fortune.
Rank and fortune. People of rank and fortune he talks about. And then he goes on, people of some rank and fortune are generally 18 or 19 years of age before they enter upon that particular business. Anyway, that's the vocabulary he uses, Sandra. Instead of talking about class, he talks about the rank of people. And then he talks about poor people, and then he talks about, he said it's, where are we? He said it's otherwise, the common people. He doesn't use the word class, but he is in fact referring to what we might call classes. Though we know how complicated the word class is, and how disputed and contested that concept is, so we shouldn't use that concept until we have a sociologist who has really explicated what class means. But in commonsensical language, you might indeed use the word class instead of what he calls rich people, or people of rank, as opposed to people who are poor, or so-called common people. One could talk about class there. But what he is saying is that, well, is he saying that class will shape the sort of occupation you have? Is there an inheritance by class of occupations at the back?
I think he does come from that class, so will shape some occupation as David said before. People who have more money tend to go into the philosopher type of job, and therefore those kind of people have more leisure time, and so they'll probably have that on their children who will be able to invest more money into their...
Very good. Excellent. I think that's really what he is saying. But that is not because people from the upper classes are born gifted, but because they have the leisure and the resources to invest in particular types of education and upbringing. Excellent. Yes.
So is he denying natural ability? So how do you explain an artist that just seems to have the natural ability?
Well, he's not, he's very careful. It's interesting, isn't it? On page 19, is it 19? He says, in the top of page 20, he says, when they came into the world, and for the first 6 or 8 years of their existence, there were perhaps, now that's a hedge, isn't it? Perhaps. No, interesting. It's even better. Look at the footnote at the bottom. It says, perhaps is omitted in editions 2 and 3 and restored in the errata to edition 4. He's really hovering around this. Anyway, so he says perhaps, right? So where are we here? They were perhaps very much alike, and neither their parents nor playfellows could perceive any remarkable difference. I mean, he's hedging his bet. He's not saying, he's not definitively denying that perhaps we do have different talents, but he wants to emphasize, he wants to focus, he wants to thematize the fact that, for the most part, people's abilities emerge as a result of the social relations, the rearing, the education, the custom, the habit into which they're embedded. So he's hedging on, he's not an extreme position, but he wants to focus upon the social production of difference rather than the inborn production of difference. Yes.
When he's speaking of nature, he's only speaking of the nature of white people.
Yes, well that's the big question. That is absolutely the big question. What does he have to say about race? Are different races, do they have different inborn abilities and talents? You might, yeah? Karen, what page? I know you don't know, because it's not there, I don't think. Okay, Matthew.
Well, one passage got me. It's on page 25. All the
20, did you say 25 you said, right?
Yeah.
Where?
All the any part.
Yes, go on, read.
In all that part of Asia which lies any considerable way north of the Euxine and Western Seas, the ancient Scythia, the modern Parthian Siberia, even all ages of the world have the same barbarous and uncivilized state which we find in the present. But then he goes on to argue, he's arguing the geography.
Yeah.
Their inability to access water is what it's still not something that's inherent in the people.
It's their geography, their ecology. They went far from water, they couldn't develop exchange, and therefore they couldn't develop division of labor, and therefore they didn't develop their different talents. I think on race, in the text that we have before us, we'll be hard-pressed to say that he says that racial differences are inborn. And it is amazing that he doesn't make some, he does talk about those 10,000 naked savages, and you would think he has a very racist perspective on the world. But, when you look at it carefully, the more consistent part is, in fact, this geographical or social determination. So, I mean, give him his due. But I think the most interesting in this case is gender. What does he have to say about, are women born to be born to domesticity? What does he say about men and women? Yes. He's on page 302. 302. Yes. Where are you? You have to tell me where you are.
It's just the first paragraph, two lines down.
All right, the first paragraph. Can you read it out loud?
Sure.
You're on stage here?
Yes.
Good.
There are no public institutions for the education of women, and there is accordingly nothing useless, absurd, or fantastical in the common course of their education. They are taught when their parents or guardians judge it necessary or useful for them to learn, and they are taught nothing else. Every part of their education tends evidently to some useful purpose, either to improve the natural attractions of their person, or to form their minds reserved to modesty, chastity, or to economy. to render them both likely to become the mistress of a family and to behave properly when they have become such.
Just one more. Yes.
Every part of her life, a woman feels some conveniency or advantage from every part of her education.
Thank you very much. What's your name? Katie. Okay. Well, what do you make of that? What do you make of that? Was you that pinpointed? How do you interpret it, Katie?
That women, because they make use of the education that they have, just as men, but in some ways it's better for them because they feel more, like they have more pride in it, and they feel like they use it more.
Are women different from men because of their education, or because they are born with different aptitudes, talents, abilities? That's the question. You're a bit hedging a bit around this. So very good. You pinpointed to exactly the right passage, so that's great. Kristen, very good. You go in a bandana today. Okay.
Sorry, hold on.
Yeah. Well, women who change their style of looks. Very disturbing. Yes.
So same paragraph, like last two lines, last two sentences there. It sounds a little bit like men. That his take on it is that men are kind of being cheated in their education, so they're not able to put it to a specific kind of use. And that, women get something that they can put to use and have a very specific use for, whereas men, in the most, as he puts it, laborious and troublesome parts of his education, have these philosophical and other kinds of learnings to do, and they don't need to put that in practice.
All right, but you're not answering my question. Well, perhaps you are, but you have to tell me what the answer is. Are women born different, or do they become different from men? According to Smith. That's what I want to know. This is tough stuff. Yes.
I think he's pretty much saying that they're kind of born different. Just because, by the way that he's saying it, it feels like he's basically saying that their education is really like something that just comes with time, but they already kind of know what they're going to do with the life. They're already.
Yes. What's your name?
Jessica?
Oh, okay. You were Kate. What were you? Katie. Sandra. Jessica. And there was somebody else I pinpointed today. Okay. Jessica, okay, yes, you were going to say.
I think, oppositely actually, that they're born the same and they're taught these things and they learn to be women and they learn to be, domestic wives and they're taught this position. Like, they start off the same, we're all, alike, but because of their education that they're allowed, they become different.
What's your name in the back?
Sienna.
Huh? Sienna.
Sienna.
Sienna, okay, very good. Sienna.
It's great because I think that, they're taught to be different, but the fact is that they were born women. So even in, two males in a working class situation, they could be taught two very different things. The fact that you're a working woman, you have one job. And even if you're considering, not even considering men who are in before, but even considering two different men who are poor, they can go into smaller subsets of what we call classes. They got more scale, because one might be, a shoemaker, that may make more than a kid maker. The fact of the matter is, if you are a woman, no matter if your wife is a shoemaker or a kid maker, or even being single, you have one job, and that came under for everybody.
But why, Sienna? Why do you have one job?
Huh?
Why do you have one job?
Because you are a woman, it doesn't matter. You can't.
Is it because you were born, or is it because men force you into that job? Oh, yes. Yes.
I think that it is suggesting that women are educated people and educated to young women. But I think what's confusing here is he talks about that they're educated to a useful purpose. And it's unclear whether he's saying it's useful to the women at most times or it's really educated to men's purposes. I'm suggesting that the men are educated is mostly useful to women as well as men.
Yes, the question of use is not the issue at stake here exactly. The issue is whether they are born somehow different, or whether they are made different, or they become different. Yes. Mari, okay. I will put your name up here, Mari. I should put Jessica up here too.
What he says specifically is that women are taught to what their parents judge necessary. So if their parents open that call, so they're born a blank canvas, and their parents' society creates them a certain role. He doesn't say that they're born as different. He says they're taught that they want to be a technical. They is different.
Interesting. Okay, you see, look, what the point I'm going to make here is that, texts are ambiguous. I mean, of course, we've only got one paragraph to work on here. This is not a text on gender, as it happens. But it's an interesting question, and it's definitely one we could discuss for a long time. I suppose, I'm sort of, if you're interested in my view, which is, should have no privileged position in this class. I mean, I do think that he's saying that education is very important for women, and the particular form it takes, it is a sort of, it's almost an upbringing, an education which is completely, fits well and synchronizes with the imagination of their lives, the imagination whose eyes in the eyes of men. So I think it is men who sort of decide what that so-called female child should become, and orchestrates their lives accordingly. It's not clear, there's no clear statement here that somehow women are fundamentally born different. They may be born different, one could argue that's consistent with what he says, but I think he's also saying that men have an idea. Men have an idea of what women should be, and they impose that idea, though that's not the vocabulary he uses. Yes, Chelsea?
For clarification, at the time, did lower class women have
No, some lower class women did not. It was obviously nothing like that happened in the following century, but there were women who were working, particularly in the domestic field. Yes, but he's not. Again, yeah. Well, he's certainly. I think you're right. There is a sort of, we would call now a sort of class bias in his account of women. He's got this idea of women being essentially domestics. At home, some way, mistresses of the household. Yeah, I don't know if any of you. Kate.
It is interesting, when he talks about the division between agriculture and production,
manufacturing.
Manufacturing. How some types of labor are more conducive to the division of labor than other, but that he doesn't take the opportunity to think about the labor that we do and.
Right.
That's divisible or not.
Right. That doesn't know. He talks about how in agriculture we saunter from one job to another and we can't create division of labor. It doesn't talk much about the household as a arena of division of labor. Yeah, okay, you can think about this. We're going to talk a lot more about gender. But anyway, Smith, it's always good to see how a theorist handles race or gender. Gender sometimes is often more likely they'll actually handle and engage with gender than race. But they often do, and it says a lot about their theorizing. I think I'm prepared to give this guy a lot of credit. Given the time he was writing, I think it's pretty amazing that he should, there's a reading that is consistent with women are not born to women but become women. It's consistent with this passage. I think that's pretty amazing. Okay, alright, very good. We're going to move on because we have only got 42 minutes left. Whew, right, and I got to keep on you move. Alright, let's see if we've really read this carefully now. The next step is, what we have talked about is this idea of distributing people into places, and we have argued that Smith has quite a strong socialization perspective, we may call it, in which education, custom, and habit, as he calls it, shape the way that people end up in different occupations. He doesn't actually tell us where those occupations come from, except they come from what? The division of labor. So let us turn next to the division of labor itself, and we're going to ask, where does the division of labor come from? What are the origins of the division of labor? What are the origins of the division of labor? What are the origins of the division of labor? Let's see. Do I know you? Jason?
Yeah.
Good. Yes. Origins. How did it begin in the first place, according to Smith? How did it begin in the first place, according to Smith, Annie? Yes. Read that out, Annie, that passage. On page 17, everybody should be there. Yes. Where are you? The top. Very good. Now, advantages are derived. That's the consequences, not the origins. Consequences. Okay, the division of labor from which so many advantages are derived. Continue.
It's not originally the effect of any human wisdom.
It's not the effect of any human wisdom. It's not the result of somebody realizing all the advantages. It's not human wisdom. Yep.
Which foresees and intends that general consequences which it dissipate. It is necessary, a very slowly gradual consequence
of a certain, yes, propensity. Speak up.
In human nature.
Which has in view no such extensive utility. The propensity to truck, barter, and exchange one thing for another. The propensity to truck, barter, and exchange. That is the originating impulse to the division of labor. So what it is not, the original impetus is not some wise person seeing the consequences, recognizing the benefits of the division of labor. It is not the result of some collective wisdom, like some state understanding the importance of division of labor. No, its origins lie in the human propensity to truck, barter, and exchange, which can possibly be reduced to, what does he say? Yes, Josephine? No. Answer my question. No, we have a propensity to truck, barter, and exchange. That's the origins of the division of labor. But truck, barter, and exchange itself, he says in the text, is the result of what, Simeon? Yes, it is a propensity that has an antecedent, possibly, he says, Chelsea?
In reason and speech?
Yes, he says possibly in reason and in speech. Reason, the faculty of reason and speech may, he thinks, question mark, lead to the propensity, human propensity, a propensity that we all